and welcome to Sports Your Shorts. This is Andrew.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are here on another segment. Now, before we start, we're going to mention that this will be the segment that we record, and we're going to go on spring break. So we will not have an episode. This episode will air for 2 weeks, and during that time, we will both work on the Facebook page. That way you'll be able to catch our previous episodes and be able to keep up with the episodes. So let's get it started. First topic today we're going to talk about is baseball, just to kind of get it out of the way. Again, the opening day for baseball is April 2nd, so not much is going on in baseball, really. They're just kind of doing spring training until April 2nd, and there really isn't going to be much news until April 2nd. Then we're going to move straight on to the NBA. We're going to talk about the MVP. So, Jimmy, who do you want to win the MVP this year?
I got to go with Kawhi Leonard. I think he deserves it more than anybody else.
I agree with that completely, too, because he's the best on that team. He carries that team. And if they weren't for Kawhi Leonard, I don't know where the Spurs would be. I think they'd still be a good team because they have an amazing coach, and you can never count them out with their amazing coach. But without Kawhi Leonard, it'd be a pretty hard team. And I really don't think anybody else who competes with it. LeBron's had not a terrible year, but not one of his best years this year. And James Harden's can't play defense, so he doesn't bring the whole package. And then the fourth one to bring up is Russell Westbrook, who's having an amazing year, but I feel like he can only go one speed, which is 100 miles an hour, and nobody wants to play with him. So I feel like that hurts him in the winning.
And he obviously isn't that big of a factor if his team isn't winning that many games. You got to look at overall records when you're talking about MVPs.
Yeah, well, they are fourth, and they're fourth or fifth now in the West, which is, I mean, decent. I mean, they're going to make a playoff.
Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs are the number one team.
I thought they were number two.
Behind who?
The Warriors. I thought the Warriors still had number one.
Nope, they have the same record, and
okay, so they have the same record now.
The Spurs have the tiebreaker.
So the Spurs have the tiebreaker, and they have the same record now. So, considering you go by that factor too, Kawhi Leonard's got it as well. But we're going to watch and see what happens. The NBA is always an unpredictable sport.
Yeah, pretty much.
And one thing that I wanted to also stress was the NBA draft. After all this happens, the NBA draft's going to come, and teams who have been in the lottery are going to continue to be in the lottery. The 76ers are back in the lottery. The Suns are back. I think it's like the 6th year in a row that the Suns and the 76ers have both been in the lottery pick. And it looks like the way the NBA draft is constructed really doesn't work. And there's ideas of trying to abolish it. Now, they've got it for 2 more years. They're going to do it this year and next year, and then they might reevaluate how they do it. Do you think the NBA draft works?
I mean, yes and no. I see what you mean by it not helping because the same teams are in there, but at the same time, it's the best way to do things. You don't want to give unfair advantages because if you abolish the draft, no rookie's going to want to go play for these bad teams, and they're going to stay bad.
Yeah, but do you think the way, like the NFL does the draft where the worst team gets the first pick and it goes on from worst on?
Yeah.
The NBA does it differently. They do
the lottery.
They do the lottery, and the first 10 go in like a ball around, and they pick. Do you think if they did it like the NFL, would different things happen? Like would those worst teams actually get the best player? And maybe that would help them?
Maybe, but you got the teams like the Lakers right now who are losing on purpose.
Yeah, and you've always got, but that happened in the NFL too. The Texans lost on purpose, and there's teams that always will lose on purpose to try to get that first pick.
Yeah, and that's never going to go away, but that won't help the situation.
It won't. And the way it is right now, though, is it's not helping the teams that continue to, lack for a better word, suck. And they're just going to keep not being good teams. And it's really not working out for teams like the Suns and the 76ers. But, I mean, you look at it, every sport's going to have teams that just suck, and they are going to have a hard time getting better. I mean, everybody has to start only half the teams start 1-0, and everybody starts 0-1. So, and only 16 teams make the playoffs in the NBA. So that means there's 30 total. So that means 14 won't. So, and that's going to happen every year. You're going to have 14 teams that are going to have bad seasons.
There's a difference between bad seasons
and terrible seasons.
And throwing the season.
Yeah.
I mean, the Browns are just bad.
Yeah.
They're not losing on purpose. They just are bad. Now, the Lakers, they're sucking on purpose.
But they're also a bad team.
Well, they're not even playing their best players right now. They straight up benched them all.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, the Colts, they threw the season because they wanted Andrew Luck.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have teams that do that they're going to throw the season.
Well, I get that, but that's not really... Basketball's ratings are so down right now, that's not good for them. That's hurting basketball, and Adam Silver needs to stop being so buddy-buddy with the players and do his job. Part of the reason the NFL works so well, as much as everybody hates Roger Goodell, he deals punishments as he sees fit.
Yeah, that is true. Part of the reason why it does work so well is punishments are handled. And also I think why the NFL works so well is because there isn't so many games. I think the reason, I think it helps it. It keeps it more entertaining because you only have 16 games to fight for it. Now, granted, the NBA has 82 and MLB has 162. I think it makes it very hard to like those things. When you just have so many games, players might take a game as it's not a big deal. We've got 40 more left or no.
That's why a lot of basketball stars they rest their best. They rest during some games.
Yeah. And
there's been a couple teams lately who they, instead of resting their players on an easy night, to get back at the NBA,
they'll rest them on a night where
they're resting on a national TV game, like the Warriors and Spurs. Mm-hmm. Both teams rested their starters because, well, the Warriors just got screwed on the scheduling, which that I think is a good way to say F you to the NBA commissioner because they're only putting the same three or four teams on national TV.
Yeah, and it's also just the fact that when you play that many games, your starters are going to be tired, and you have to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. But
to sit out an entire game, I get sitting out for most of the game, but I think they should at least have to play a little bit, unless they're like hurt.
Yeah, unless they're hurt.
Now LeBron, I think he's in good enough shape that he can play an entire season without taking games off, but he's LeBron and he does what he wants.
But I think a lot of players are in good enough shape to do that. Steph Curry, good enough shape to do that, and there's a lot of players besides LeBron that are in good enough shape to do that.
But LeBron takes more games off than all these other guys.
Yeah, because he's the diva of the league.
He's something.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to bring it back with some topics about the bracket news, and then we're going to hit the NFL. You're watching Sports Your Short. All right, and we're back to Sports Your Shorts. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.
And like I said, we would talk about bracket news and NCAA. So the big news in the bracket is Wisconsin knocked off Villanova, the number one overall seed in the bracket, and Villanova won the tournament last year. So it's pretty crazy for them to see them go in the field of 32. They didn't even make it to the Sweet 16 because the Sweet 16 is being decided today and tomorrow. And in other news, Tom Crean of the Indiana coach got fired. What do you think on that decision?
I don't think he should have been fired.
You don't
he's made it to three Sweet 16s in the last 4 or 5 years. What part of that means he should be fired?
Yeah, they also talked about how in his 9 years that he has the third most wins as an Indiana coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that really doesn't qualify for fire in my book if you've got the third most wins.
I think that he should have had at least another year.
Yeah. But
what do I know?
Yeah, what do we know? We're just a bunch of sports reporters.
Did you hear about that diner who promised the entire student body of one of these I think it's one of these Kentucky schools that if they win, they all get free steak, and it averaged to like about $1 million worth of steak.
I didn't hear about that. No.
Oh man, I just remembered it, and yeah, it's like $1 million worth of steak if they can pull off the upset.
Well, I don't think they were able to pull off the upset because I still think Kentucky's in it.
I don't know. Kentucky's probably in it, but
yeah,
I just thought
Kentucky
that was
and
crazy.
North Kentucky.
Yeah,
they were facing each other, and Kentucky beat North Kentucky. But also, the bracket ends. I mean, it doesn't end, but the Final Four starts April 1st, and we will have a champion by April 4th. So my bracket's already busted because I had Villanova winning it all, and they lost. And I'm pretty... Is your bracket busted, Jimmy?
I didn't make a bracket either.
You didn't make one?
I did not.
So, Jimmy's is still perfect because he didn't make one. So, we're going to end NCAA talk and jump right into the NFL. So, some free agency has happened in the NFL. Some just easy signings. Eddie Lacy got signed to the Seahawks. Cordell Patterson was to the Raiders. And the Raiders also signed Jared Cook. There's some news around that, right, Jimmy?
Yeah. Apparently, Jared Cook wants the number 89 from Amari Cooper.
Do you think he's going to get it? You don't think
not even close.
Not even close? Some other news is the Vikings signed Latavius Murray. You thought that was bad news for him. Why was that bad news?
He went from a top 5 offensive line to a bottom 3 offensive line. How is that good?
Yeah, it does not sound good. I mean, it could help if he makes that team a good rushing somehow. Like if he just magically pours it out of his...
They don't have a quarterback. They don't have an offensive line. They don't really have any receivers. They don't have any defensive players.
It's a team that's going to struggle.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. There was also talk, but it's highly unlikely that Marshawn Lynch was going to come out of retirement.
No way.
And the Raiders, but it's really unlikely. I don't see him coming out of retirement after a year. And the Giants re-signed Pierre-Paul. It wasn't much news. Poe signed with the Falcons, so that's a loss for Kansas City.
Oh, we got a guy who's can be better and a lot cheaper.
And I always think Kansas City is always good at finding like the next man up mentality. They've got good coaching to do it, and they've got players that always step up. So I don't think it's going to hurt them tremendously. I really don't. It will affect them, but it won't hurt them. Aaron Rodgers called out the Packers, and when he called them out, they didn't do much signing. They signed Martellus Bennett, who I think is on his last year. Really, he was injured last year and the year before that, and then they signed Devin House, who's really not a starter, and Lance Kendricks. So that I really don't think this helps the team at all.
No, it doesn't, and I won't be surprised if when Aaron Rodgers' contract's up, if he doesn't decide to leave.
Yeah, and it's hard to see him play for another team, but they aren't going to do anything to help him.
They're not helping him. They don't get free agents. That's not how they play. And the one time Aaron Rodgers had a really good defense, he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and
he hasn't had a defense since, and that's about it. He doesn't have a running game.
And that was one thing I wanted to talk about. Like, this kind of makes him feel underappreciated because he goes and calls them out, and they did nothing. They didn't sign anything.
The problem is they don't have an owner. They don't have a GM.
It's like,
or they have a GM. They don't have an owner who he can build a relationship with.
Yeah.
The city owns them.
Yeah, the city owns
them. And
them.
they're not going to let Aaron Rodgers run the show because they're stubborn. You don't see Tom Brady going through stuff like this. You didn't see Peyton Manning going through stuff like this.
Well, Peyton Manning did call out the Colts, but I think they signed people.
They got people for him.
Yeah,
and
right when he called them out.
When he went to Denver, he told John Elway, I need a defense. And they had a top 5 defense every year he was there.
And this also, I wanted to bring up maybe like Drew Brees feeling underappreciated because they always don't do anything to help him. He's always had the 5 worst defense, except for that year they won the Super Bowl. They've had the 5.
His defense was really bad that year.
Yeah, they weren't as bad as they were now.
No, they're not as bad as
They've been ranked 28 or lower for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
The year they won the Super Bowl, they were ranked 25th. So
Yeah.
they're better than 28th and lower. So they really haven't done anything for the past 5 years. So it really in my opinion, it really makes these two quarterbacks feel underappreciated because they're not getting any of their thing noticed. They're basically carrying these teams.
I don't think that's the case with Drew Brees.
Okay.
Because I think that he just doesn't care anymore. He's burnt out.
Uh-huh.
I think he's going to retire after next year. And I mean, the team, as far as they think that they don't need to add anybody because they have Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the Packers. They're relying on them, the quarterback. And if they didn't have those quarterbacks, they'd be at the bottom of their divisions every year, guaranteed.
Yeah. And if you look at it this way, they say they don't need anybody because they have Drew Brees. It's a bad thing to bring up because you're not a Patriot fan. But if the Patriots played that way because they have Tom Brady, they still added players like Dwayne Allen, Stephon Gilmore.
The Patriots would still dominate the league without Tom Brady.
And why do you say that?
They've done it.
Because of their coaching?
It's the system. Their system does not rely on players. They have multiple people who play each position. Mm-hmm. And you could put a terrible quarterback in that system. Look at Matt Castle. 10-6, took him to the playoffs. Didn't make it that far in the playoffs, but if Matt Castle could take you pretty on a really good season, then it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and what I was trying to say was, though, is they have a player in Tom Brady, and they still went and added players to help their team.
They're going all in for the next 2 years because Tom Brady's done after 2 years. And when Tom Brady leaves, Bill Belichick's going to retire. Why would he stay? What's the reason for him to stay?
I mean, he wants to continue to coach because he likes it. But other than that...
He won't. It's Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That's the team. And I'm sure they both discussed they're retiring at the same time.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense when they go after the players that are definitely going to start and the Packers did nothing. Are they just going to rely on the NFL draft?
That's what they always do. And it doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to stay relevant and have a good team, you've got to pick up some free agencies and not just rely everything on the NFL draft.
The only time that works is if you have a solid foundation. Like, you got to rebuild. You got to rebuild through the draft. That's what the Chiefs did. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs don't need to go make a bunch of free agency signings because all their star players they drafted.
Yeah.
But we went through many years of 2-14 and 4-12s, and they're not going to do that with the Packers because Aaron Rodgers is that good. He'll win you 8 games on his own.
Yeah.
And so they're never going to get a top 5 pick.
And that's almost the same with the Saints, too. Drew Brees is that good that he'll win you 8 games.
Aaron Rodgers is better than Drew Brees.
Yeah, I agree that Aaron Rodgers
Simply
is better.
Because Aaron Rodgers is wildly athletic and accurate.
Yeah.
He makes throws that should not be possible.
And he makes them look easy.
So easy.
Like he'll just make it look like a flick of the wrist and he'll throw it 30, 40 yards down the field.
Yeah, and he makes everybody around him better.
Yeah.
But you saw it in the Atlanta game. Mm-hmm. When they lost to Atlanta in the playoffs, you could see that he was like, there's nothing I could do because no matter what happens,
and
they're going to score.
He didn't even feel good that game. He was recovering from the flu, and he had a really good game, but he had some off-target throws. And so when he even has like a game where it's not his best, he still keeps the team in it. But he just saw that he couldn't do anymore because they were just going to score. I think that's
why. I think the only reason he made so many bad throws that game is because he had to try something.
Yeah, he had to do everything.
Because the defense, I think they stopped him twice the entire game.
The entire game, I think they stopped him maybe 3 times at the most.
And you can't win a game like that
against the Falcons. You could win a game like that against a team that can't score that much. But against a team like as powerful as the Falcons who score constantly.
It reminds me of the 2003 playoff game against the Colts when the Chiefs played the Colts. We punted one time and we lost because our defense was so weak we couldn't stop them. Every other drive in that game was a touchdown.
Yeah. You've really got to have some kind of defense to stop them because defense wins championships.
Sometimes.
Very hard for an offense to win championships. The past championships,
That's not true.
Defense has won it.
That's not true. Tom Brady's first 3 Super Bowls, he won it. There's no defense.
Well, that's just the last few Super Bowls have been won by a defensive team. It's the last 3.
I don't think the Patriots were a defensive team against Seattle. They had an alright defense.
They had a defensive stop.
Yeah, but that's not a defense. You do need a defense, but just a defense won't win you championships.
Yeah.
The Rams have a very good defense. They're not winning a championship.
Yeah, that is true. So you do need a defense that's going to at least get you like 3-4 stops.
You need a mix between the two because the Saints have a very good offense, terrible defense.
Yeah,
the Rams have a very good defense, but a terrible offense.
Yeah, and those teams aren't even going to make the playoffs if they don't fix those things. And one thing that we could talk about too is the Browns are going to continue, I think, to struggle because they needed a star receiver, and the Rams getting rid of Kenny Britt, they didn't think he was a star. And what, did the Browns think that Kenny Britt's going to be their star receiver?
They're going to suck next year, and you want me to tell you why?
Why?
They want Sam Donald from USC. They're going to intentionally throw this year. That's why they let Terrell Pryor go. Terrell Pryor could win 2-3 games on his own.
Yeah.
And,
well, they're going to draft two. They should draft 2 defensive players in their 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
To really help their defense.
But you think those 2 players are going to win you multiple games?
No, I just think
they're going to have a top 3 pick, and they're going to trade like crazy to get that Sam Donald. Yeah.
And they were talking about Todd McShay and the other guy, I always forget his name, when they do those pre-drafts. They were saying that they should draft Winston for their second. Like, the Browns have 2 first-round picks. They were saying they should draft Winston. And I don't think that's a good idea at all. Because they shouldn't waste their money on a quarterback when they already traded for They already traded for Osweiler, and they have Clausen. They should at least try these guys out.
They're going to cut Osweiler.
Well, even they do cut him. I'm just saying they should try these guys out. Well, Clausen they should try out too.
Yeah, but you know what Osweiler has. He has nothing. He is not a star quarterback. He's not a top 25 quarterback. He's in the bottom 7 of the league.
You don't think it's just because he had one bad year? You think he's always going to be in the bottom 7?
I didn't think he was good in the Denver.
I didn't think he was good in Denver, but I thought that he was in the 20 range, and he could win you maybe 4 games, and that's what the Browns are looking for, to win more than 3.
I'm going to name a bunch of quarterbacks. You tell me if you'll take Brock Osweiler as that quarterback.
Okay.
Jared Goff.
I'd take Jared Goff.
Blake Bortles.
I'd take Blake Bortles.
Ryan Tannehill.
I'm not a big fan on Tannehill.
So you take Brock Osweiler.
I would take Ryan Tannehill, but I'm not a big fan of Tannehill.
I'm not that big of a fan of Tannehill either, but I'll take him over Brock Osweiler.
Okay.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I'd take Brock Osweiler because Fitzpatrick kind of these past 2 years, he's really done bad. He's thrown a lot of interceptions.
It was just last year. The year before, he did really good. He took him to the playoffs.
Yeah, so based on the year before, I would take Brock Osweiler. But going on career, I would take Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Let's see. Brian Hoyer.
I'd take Osweiler.
Really?
Over Brian Hoyer.
Why?
Yeah. Because Brian Hoyer's got injuries. I don't see him as a good quarterback. He's never been that good.
He was the last one to lead the Browns to a 6-win season.
And I'm not saying that Brock Osweiler could lead him to 6 wins. I'm just saying you should try.
Brian Hoyer did better as a Texan than Brock Osweiler did.
I'm just saying if you're gonna give up a 4th-round pick, even though you got more out of it, and you've got this quarterback, you should try one season with them and not go waste your money on Winston.
I think there might be 2 quarterbacks in the league that I'll take Brock Osweiler over.
Well, I don't know why you trade for him then cut him. That doesn't.
They had the salary cap, and they're in the process of rebuilding. They're trying to get more players for the future. They had $100 and something million in salary cap that they weren't going to use. Why would you not?
Because he's not gonna. If he's not gonna do anything for your team, why waste money on him?
Because they were going to lose the money anyway.
Well,
why would you not get picks?
You could have signed someone, or you could have. They did get picks, so I guess that's smart. But they could have signed someone.
They don't want to win. They don't want to win this year. They want Sam Darnold.
So they're just not going to win this year. And then when they get Sam Darnold, are they just going to magically
They have
win?
so many picks. They'll be all right.
I feel like you're just throwing away a season to get this one player. What if that player's a bust?
Welcome to Cleveland. What do you want me to say?
That's just a lot of motivation for a player that could be a bust.
He could be. And he might not even come out of the draft next year. You don't know.
Yeah, like he may stay for his senior year.
But Brock Osweiler, everyone knows what he has, and he has nothing.
Okay, but I just don't think you should draft your second pick on Winston. Not Winston, but whatever his name is. What is his name?
Which one?
The one that's like in the draft now, who plays for Clemson.
Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I don't think you should waste your money on Watson until you see what Clausen has.
They're not going to take Watson.
There's rumors that they are.
They won't. He already said he doesn't want to play for Cleveland.
Well, they draft him. He has no choice.
No, yes, he does.
Unless he.
If he refuses to play for them, he doesn't have to play for him.
Yeah.
He could wait till next year and come back out into the draft. If he stays in football shape, look at what happened with Joey Bosa. He wasn't going to play at all. He didn't come in till 3 games into the season.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Eli Manning.
Yeah,
he refused to play. Him and his dad, they refused to let him play for the Chargers, and he got traded to the Giants.
Yeah.
If you refuse to play for a team, they can't force you.
Well, I just don't think it'd be a smart idea for them to do that. Try to get Deshaun Watson. I really don't think that'd be a smart idea.
I think if they get anybody, it'll be probably Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how to say his last name. From Texas A&M.
They said that he's the best quarterback in the draft. Is the one from Texas A&M, and then Deshaun Watson's the second best. So maybe they do that, it would help them. But I don't see you wasting money on a quarterback when you do have Clausen. At least try him out.
He's played before.
Yeah.
You know what he has.
Well, I feel like Clausen's unproven still, because he only played like 3 games I think last year. So I feel like he still has something to prove to the Browns.
Yeah. Should we take our?
I think we're going to take our second break, and then we'll talk more NFL. And welcome back to Sports Your Shorts. This is Andrew.
This is Jimmy.
And the final topic today is going to be the NFL. So let's just jump right into it. But I feel like we just kind of jumped over the NCAA. The tournament starts March 14th, so get your brackets ready. And get ready to watch some amazing basketball from March Madness. It's going to be so much fun to watch. But let's jump into the sport that me and Jimmy love the most, and we'll talk for days about, and that's football. Chris Johnson's record was broken. Is it that big of a deal?
I don't think it is at all.
I don't think it is that at all either. I mean, congrats to Jalen Ross. Really, John Ross. Congrats. I mean, you definitely deserve maybe a round of applause.
I think that he should have. I think he's stupid for not wearing Under Armour.
Yeah.
Because they offered, if someone broke his record this year, if they were wearing Under Armour, they were going to get a free island.
Yeah. And not only just that, it's also the fact of, like, he broke a pretty big record and he kind of got hurt. He tore, like, his hamstring doing it. So, I mean, it's not that bad of an injury. He'll be back before you know it. But was it really to go all out for? I really don't think so.
I don't even think the 40 time is that big of a deal.
It doesn't translate to
game speed. I don't think it translates to game speed because when you get the adrenaline pumping through you and you get people chasing you, you run faster than you ever ran in your life.
Yeah, that is true. So maybe he runs faster than that.
Or maybe he doesn't. maybe one of these slower guys runs faster than he does.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal for 40 time. But I do think it gives him a little bit higher ranking on some teams' radar because they're like, he's really fast. But I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I think if this was 4 years ago, the Raiders would have traded everything to get him. Because they drafted the fastest player ever.
Yeah, they drafted Hayward Bay, and look how that turned out. So maybe it was 4 years ago, the Raiders would have gone everything. But enough about that. The Raiders did speak about the Raiders, they did get the loan approved to go to Vegas. So they're going to Vegas. I mean, it's not that huge of news because we knew it was going to happen, but it's official now.
I knew it was going to happen. Like, everyone, when the first guy pulled out of the loan, I knew they were going to find somebody else. There's so many millionaires in Vegas, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like Bank of America gave him the loan, so it's a Bank of America stadium now.
I'm just happy I could finally go to a Raiders game.
And not get killed.
Pretty much.
So, what about Jamal Charles getting released from the Chiefs? Do you think it was time?
I do. It kills me. He's one of my favorite players. But it was just time. He's not the player he used to be. He failed his physical, and he's old for a running back.
All those injuries, when you tear your ACL twice, that's really hard to come back from. It really is. So, I think it was time, and it's hard because he was the face of the team for a while, so it's hard. But
he's easily a Hall of Famer. Easily.
Yeah, easily is.
Easily going to be easily the best Chiefs running back of all time. I think he's better than Priest Holmes.
I could agree with that.
I think Priest Holmes might have looked better at times, but if you take Jamal Charles and put it behind that 2003 line, there's nothing he couldn't have done. He would have averaged 25 yards a carry. Because I was going to bring up Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about Adrian Peterson for a second because he is really interested in the Raiders. Raiders are not interested in him. Where do you think he's going to play?
I think that Adrian Peterson, I really want to see him on the Bucs because I think it could help that team if Doug Martin gets hurt again. I think it really could help that team.
See, I don't think Doug Martin's going to be there next year.
Yeah, so I really think that it could help the team with whoever they have. Because who do they have after Doug Martin? So I really think it could help the Bucs succeed. I don't think that he's going to be on the Bucs, but I think it could help him a lot.
Right now, he wants a lot of money, and he's not going to get it.
He's not. He's not worth that much money.
He needs to step back and be like, wow, I'm old. I'm not going to get this money.
And also, you're injured. Like, you had a really bad year last year. Granted, your offensive line was terrible. But you had a really bad year. You got injured again. So you got to step back and say, I can't play as well as I did. I need a team with an offensive line. And I need a team that's not just going to rely on me. And the Vikings were just going to rely on him.
You think the Bucs have a good offensive line?
I don't necessarily.
I think it's average. I don't think it's a bad line.
I think that it's better than what the Vikings offensive line was.
Everybody better than the Vikings
and I think that they have receivers and they have a quarterback and they just have a better team that it could help them.
They definitely have better receivers.
Yeah. And they have a better quarterback. So
Mike Evans, and then they just signed Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, so and if they get a running back because Doug Martin's not doing very well, they get a running back that can maybe get them 50 yards a game, 60 yards a game, like I think Adrian Peterson could do. That team's really hard to stop.
I don't know. I think Adrian Peterson should just call it quits or retire.
That would definitely be something I see too. If the team, because he's not going to get the money he wants, and no team's going to come calling. I think it's the best time for you to call quits and retire.
Same thing with Jamal Charles. I think he should retire, but I think he's going to go to the Eagles or the Seahawks.
Okay.
But Brock Osweiler being traded to the Texans
on day one of not traded to the Texans, traded to the Browns.
That's what I meant. Traded from the Texans
on day one of free agency. That's a big trade, but I think the Browns won that because they just gave up a 4th round pick. And they got a 6th round pick and a 2nd round next year. That's a huge win for them.
I think Osweiler's going to be a backup.
I think just because I don't know about Cody Kessler that he could start, but I also think that they could draft a quarterback.
They're not drafting a quarterback. They're gonna draft the defensive end that everyone's raving about.
I think that they're going to draft defense the first round, definitely because they have 2 picks. But I see them maybe drafting a quarterback maybe the 3rd round.
I don't.
Or later.
I just don't see it happen. They drafted a quarterback every year for as long as I can remember.
And it really hasn't helped.
And they haven't done anything.
So
I think they need to take a step back, see what Cody Kessler has, and if he doesn't have anything, next year's a much better draft for quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. And I don't think they're going to draft. If they draft a quarterback, I see it later rounds, and I see it just to give Cody Kessler a challenge, because it's either going to be Cody Kessler or Brock Eisler who starts. And there was a lot of quarterbacks that like you draft late and they do amazing. Tom Brady. Russell Wilson was drafted in the 4th round. He started. So you don't know
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott. So
Kurt Warner was undrafted.
Kurt Warner was undrafted. So you don't know what you're going to get. So they may just draft someone, and he might turn into something. But I think they should definitely go defense.
First of all, anyone who gets drafted the Browns is not going to be anything. They're a joke. That franchise is a joke.
I mean, I did see a meme that I thought was so funny. It said, you think the Patriots cheat, but the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bengals get 2 bye weeks. They get 1 bye week, and then when they face the Browns, they get another one.
3 then.
And they get 3 bye weeks, basically. Because you know that they're going to win. You really don't. The Browns aren't going to beat the Steelers, no matter. Even if they lost Ben Roethlisberger, they aren't going to beat the Steelers.
Disagree with that one.
But they aren't going to beat the Ravens.
You've seen how bad they played without Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, but I think they could get like 20 points and beat the Browns.
I don't think they could. They almost lost to the Browns. They got a BS call to win that game.
Yeah.
So you can't say that without Ben Roethlisberger they wouldn't.
Okay, maybe without Ben Roethlisberger, the Browns have a chance to beat them. But other than that, those teams literally have 3 bye weeks.
Good news for the Texans though, because they're out of the worst contract ever.
Yeah,
ever.
They're out of it. So that's really good for them. The Cowboys releasing Tony Romo. What do you think Tony Romo's going to go?
Denver makes no sense. They don't want him. It's the toughest division of football.
Yeah.
They got a weak offensive line, and then on top of that, you're gonna have to face Joey Bosa. You're gonna have to face Khalil Mack and Justin Houston twice apiece.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of hurt.
I see if Tony Romo goes somewhere, it's the Jets.
He won't go to the Jets.
Or the Browns. Or just like a team that is just Bears maybe.
No, I think Texans makes the most sense.
That does make the most sense because of how weak that division is.
If he doesn't go to the Texans, I see him going to like the Rams or Jacksonville, somewhere where they have a big market to where he can start getting into broadcasting and stuff for his post-NFL career.
Yeah. Okay, but the Eagles signing Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, does that help them?
Yes.
I think it helps them tremendously.
I wouldn't say tremendously because they don't have a very good defense.
Yeah, but Carson Wentz had nobody to throw to.
Carson Wentz is the biggest winner of the free agency so far.
Yeah.
Because he's got Alshon Jeffrey. Now, I don't think Alshon Jeffrey is a very good number 1 receiver, but he's a good number 2 guy. And that's the same with Torrey Smith. Neither of them are number 1 guys, but one of them is going to get double teamed, which means the other one's going to be all right.
And Matthews is a good speed receiver, so it's definitely someone they can move to 3 from 1, and he's going to get open more.
Yeah, and you got Brent Selleck.
And they've also got that tight end Zach Ertz, very good tight end
Zach
too.
Ertz. And on top of all this, there's rumors that they're going to get Jamal Charles.
Yeah, so
they're going to be fine. They need to work on their defense throughout the draft. And who knows, maybe they can get back to when they were who they were with Andy Reid and them.
Yeah.
It'll be the Cowboys and Eagles again.
In that division.
Staying in that division, though, Kirk Cousins franchise tag, but he requested a trade.
Mm-hmm.
He went directly to the owner because the GM is missing in action. They have no idea where the GM's at.
Mm-hmm.
The owner said, don't bet on it. I think they're stupid if they don't try to trade him.
I think they're stupid if they don't try to trade him, but he's definitely does not want to play for them. And if he ends up playing for them, it's going to hurt the Redskins.
They're straight up stupid if they don't trade him. You know why?
Why?
Because next year he's not going to play for him.
Yeah.
Either way. The next year they'll get a 4th round pick for him.
Yeah. This year
they can trade him for a 1st round pick, and they can get something good for him. They burned his bridges. They've burned the bridges with him. He wants to go play with the 49ers, where his offensive coordinator and Kyle Shanahan is at. They want him, and I'm sure they'd be willing to trade the 1st pick.
I would too. If you get Kirk Cousins,
I don't think Kirk Cousins, top 10 maybe.
I think that he's a top 10 quarterback, but that helps your team where you're at right now.
Oh yeah,
because Colin Kaepernick is.
Kaepernick's not even on their team.
I mean, but who they have starting now?
They have nobody starting.
Who they have starting now?
Nobody.
I know they have nobody, but like who they have right now is in the bottom tier, and you want someone who's in the top tier. That's a huge.
They literally have no quarterbacks on their roster.
Okay, well, whoever they get that's not Kirk Cousins is not going to be top 10.
Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
But he's not an elite.
I don't think he's an elite quarterback either. I just think that he could help. He definitely would help the 49ers tremendously.
The Redskins are a joke. They're more poorly run, in my opinion, than the Browns. Because the Browns know they suck. They've admitted that they suck.
Yeah.
The Redskins don't even know where their GM is at.
It's terribly run. But, so staying in that division still, the Giants signing Brandon Marshall. He didn't do too good with the Jets, but do you think it could help?
No, that's not true. That is not true.
He did good. Not last year. He didn't do very well with the
Last year he didn't do very well, but look at his quarterback situation.
Yeah, his quarterback situation.
The year before that was a career year
for him. So maybe with Eli Manning and him number 2 receiver, it's definitely better than Victor Cruz, I think. I think that it's better than Victor Cruz.
I think if he wanted to go to a playoff contender,
and the Giants are.
The Giants might be, depending on the Eli Manning that shows up next year. Mm-hmm. My biggest concern, he doesn't have much of an ego anymore. Mm-hmm. But how do you think Odell Beckham's going to react to another star, big-name guy going there?
I mean, he did say that that he's okay with being a second string. So with Odell just saying, well, he's the second string, I don't think Odell is going to have that much effect on it.
You don't think so?
Right now, I don't think so. It could develop more in the season.
I think.
But right now, I
think right now, Odell Beckham's gonna do something stupid. He's gonna say something stupid, and as good as Brandon Marshall has gotten about that, the second Odell Beckham lips off to him, you don't think that's gonna start some stuff?
It will start some stuff, definitely.
It's a terrible fit. I don't think it makes sense because he has another job in New York with Showtime.
Yeah.
But if he wanted to go to a playoff contender, he should have went to the Colts. Because I think the NFC East is the 3rd toughest division of football.
All right. Now, what about Deshaun Jackson going to the Bucs? I think that helps him a lot because Mike Evans dropped a lot of passes, and this gives them another thing. Do the next signing, Kenny Britt to the Browns, not a huge change. Just gives them a receiver.
That they don't have anyone to throw him to.
Yeah, because they don't have a quarterback. And then NFL.com is saying Micah Hyde to the Bills is one of the biggest signings. What do you think of that? Because the Packers didn't even offer him anything, and I feel like he was their best safety.
I have no...
You have no say on it?
No opinion either way.
Why?
I don't think the Bills are going to do anything. They got Tyrod Taylor back, but it's just I don't think that they're going to make anything. Mm-hmm. He might be a very good player, but he's not on a good team, so it doesn't matter.
That makes sense. Now the big thing was the Jaguars paid $30 million for Calais Campbell, and then they paid $26 million for AJ Boye. Now, they've spent the most money on players the past 3 years, $488 million. So, the NFL is saying that, not NFL, but NFL Insider is saying that it's just the Jaguars being the Jaguars and just throwing money. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yes and no, because they are just throwing around money because they don't have any players. But this makes sense for them. Last year they had a terrible coach.
Mm-hmm.
This year they're building their defense. Their defense did not lose them games last year.
Yeah.
What lost them games last year was their coaching.
Yeah, and
they have offense all over the field. I don't know what happened to Blake Bortles last year, but that's not who Blake Bortles is. He had some bad luck and he made some stupid mistakes. I'm looking for him to have a bounce back year, and I think Allen Robinson is going to also bounce back, and maybe they could take that division by surprise.
They could, because it is a very weak division.
Weakest division in football.
Yeah, it's definitely the weakest division because you've got the Colts who could take it. You've got the Titans who could take it, and the Titans are a 500 team at best.
The 9-7 was the winner of that division last year.
Yeah, so I see the Titans going 9-7 again. Like, that's the best I see them doing. So the Jaguars could take that division if they, and I feel like this is also helpful because they got Tom Coughlin. So it's a different direction for them, and they got a different coach. So it's not the Jaguars just being the Jaguars and spending a lot of money. I think that it's also a different direction. So that's something that I don't necessarily agree with, that it's just the Jaguars spending a lot of money. Ted Ginn went to the Saints. That helps the Saints a lot, gives them a receiver. But they already have enough receivers too. So,
well, okay, here's the thing. Their Saints are looking to trade Brandon Cooks. But either way, Brandon Cooks wasn't the number one guy anymore anyway. Yeah. Michael Thomas is the number one guy there. Number 2 is Willie Snead.
Yeah.
And then now Ted Ginn's going to be the number 3 because Brandon Cooks is on his way out. They do not get along anymore, the organization and him. Mm-hmm. And frankly, they shouldn't be worrying about their offense. They need to make some defensive players signs. They have one of the worst defenses in the league. And you're wasting Drew Brees' talent right now.
Yeah, and Drew Brees is in his last years. He's been there for I think he's been pro for 12 years, maybe 13 years. So he's getting old. He's getting up there.
He's been pro longer than that.
Yeah, even longer than that. I think
he came in the league in 2001.
Yeah, so that's 15 years that he's been pro. So these are his last years, and you're wasting the talent that you have with them, definitely. Because you got to fix your defense. Your defense is terrible.
Sean Payton's a hell of a coach. Then Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But, you're losing games when you're scoring 40 points.
Yeah, when you have to score 40 points to win a game, you're going to lose.
They're scoring 40 points and still losing.
Yeah, it's just terrible to watch. And the final signing was Terrell Pryor going to the Redskins. And we've already talked about how terrible the Redskins. So I don't even think this even helps them if they're going to lose Kirk Cousins.
I mean, I think they should put him back at quarterback.
Terrell Pryor?
Yeah. It can't hurt.
It can't hurt. If they lose Kirk Cousins, it can't hurt. And is there really any other big signings?
Just a bunch of speculation right now. Who do you think's improved the most this free agency so far?
So far, I think that it goes to, so far since we're just in day one, is the Jaguars, just because they signed 2 big names and they're changing their direction. So just right now, I think it's either the Jaguars, but I mean, this is only day 2, so there's still a whole bunch of players left. And
I'm gonna have to. Oh man, this is a tough one. I think. Oh, by the way, Julius Peppers returns to the Panthers.
Oh yeah, that's one that I missed.
That's a big deal. I think right now one of the most improved teams is the Bears because they cut Jay Cutler. I think that's a big deal. No, realistically, I think that probably this offseason, the 49ers, not from the players they've added, Kyle Shanahan's going to be a great coach, and I have faith that John Lynch is going to be able to
help
turn
them.
That franchise around.
since this recording, in day 2 of free agency, a big move was that Brandon Cooks was actually traded to the Patriots. And in day 3, looks like J.J. Wilcox has found a new home with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we are starting day 4 of free agency with still a lot of free agents up there. The Chiefs re-signed Daniel Sorensen. The Bears have signed Marcus Cooper from the Cardinals. And former Jets quarterback Geno Smith is visiting the Giants on Saturday. And it looks also like the Panthers lost another wide receiver, Philly Brown, to the Bears, which adds a receiving core to them. And Jimmy didn't agree with me that Ted Ginn was a huge loss for the Panthers, but they already have a struggling wide receiving core, and Ted Ginn was their number 2, and now losing Philly Brown, I feel like it's something that they need to address is the wide receiver position. And I also feel like they also need to address their offensive line because the Panthers are really struggled last year with offensive line and receivers, and it made Cam Newton look really bad. And for Cam Newton to get back to his prime, they need to fix these 2 things, or else he's going to look bad again, and it's not going to look good for the Panthers. Final topic of free agency was also Aaron Rodgers of the Packers called out his team for not making free agency moves. So they did sign a tight end and Martellus Bennett to help with their offense. This could really help the Packers offense if he stays healthy, but I think the Packers need to fix their defense. Their defense is really old. They really had struggles on one of the corner positions. They just would allow touchdown after touchdown on the left side, I think it was. And they just really struggled. No matter who played that side of corner, they just struggled. And I feel like they also need to fix their linebacking core because their linebacking core is getting older. They just really need to fix that defense because Aaron Rodgers can't do it all. And if he has to call out the team for them to do something, I really think they need to fix the defense. And they really need to sign something in their defense or draft something to help their defense and help this team and help Aaron Rodgers so he doesn't have to call them out. Well, so it's a sad time, Jimmy, because we got to end this show. I hope that you guys enjoyed Sports Your Shorts. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.
And we hope to see you next week and tune in. Next week and tune in. Next week. And we're back to Sports Your Shorts. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jimmy.
And the last topic we're going to hit today is we're going to talk about the quarterbacks that are getting ready for the NFL draft if we think they're going to be NFL ready and if they could jump into a system. So, the first one we're going to start with is Watson from Clemson. So, what do you think, Jimmy?
I don't think any of these quarterbacks are going to be able to just jump into a system and start right off the bat. I think he is the most athletic and football smart of the quarterbacks. I think the perfect situation for him would be sitting behind a quarterback with a system that fits him very well. And maybe in a year or 2, he could be a top 10 quarterback, win a couple Super Bowls with the right team.
I kind of agree with that on him, too. The only quarterback that they rank above Deshaun Watson is North Carolina's quarterback,
Mitch
Trubisky, which he's a great quarterback, but I don't see him.
There's not enough film on him for me to decide that he's a great quarterback.
And I don't see him just jumping in to a team and making a huge impact.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's only played 1 year of football, and let's face it, they're not that good of a... He didn't play that many good teams.
Yeah, because the ACC is really weak in football, so you could look really great, but you're not playing very many good teams. Then they say the third quarterback is Pat Mahomes from Texas Tech.
Texas Tech?
Yeah, Texas Tech.
I think as a Chiefs fan, I think I would like him or Deshaun Watson to sit behind Alex Smith for a year. I can't stand Alex Smith. I don't think he's a good quarterback, but I would like to see them sit behind him for a year, learn the system, and I think both of those guys could be stars. But if they just come into the league without or push into a starting position right off the bat, that's not good for them, and that's not good for the team that drafts them.
Yeah, it could really hurt. It could hurt them, and it could hurt the team.
The only quarterback in the draft right now that I could see having a chance of being a starter right off the bat is Deshaun Kaiser.
DeShone Kaiser,
the Notre Dame quarterback.
Okay.
People are comparing him to a young Phillip Rivers.
And he's got kind of the legs to run. He's more athletic Phillip Rivers than he is.
And you've seen him play in really, really rainy weather. So you know that that's not going to affect him that much.
So that's what we think of the quarterbacks that are going to hit the NFL draft, and whether we think that they're going to have a huge impact. But what do you think about the teams who need a quarterback? Are they gonna draft a quarterback, or are they just gonna kind of play with what they have? Teams like the Jets who don't know what they're gonna do.
The Jets are rebuilding. It's gonna be a year or two before they get a quarterback.
Okay.
They're cutting all their players. The 49ers are gonna get Kirk Cousins in the next year. If they don't get him this year, they'll get him next year.
Okay.
The Redskins will need a quarterback. I could see a Patrick Mahomes going there. Maybe a Mitchell Trubisky.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jacksonville's going to stick with Blake Bortles this year. He's going to surprise everybody, and he'll be back on track. I think Deshaun Watson is going to go to Kansas City. I think he's going to fall to him in the draft.
But do you think Kansas City's smart enough to get him?
I do. I really think so. I don't.
Like if he fell to him, do you think they would pick him?
I do, because I think that Andy Reid and John Dorsey know that they've reached their limit with Alex Smith, and they need to look towards the future.
I hope that they know, because I don't see Alex Smith winning new games, and I don't see him losing new games. He's just Mr. I'm just gonna.
He's Mr. I'm not gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that the Texans might be able to somehow get DeShone Kaiser.
And for teams that need a quarterback, like the Texans, the Browns, the 49ers, and the Jets, we all kind of mentioned that they're kind of all in their rebuilding stage. And
the Browns have been rebuilding since I've been alive.
The Browns are going to be rebuilding for a while, I think. It's going to be a long time.
I actually disagree. I think in the next 2-3 years...
You think they're finally going to win some games?
I think they'll be about 8-8. I don't think they'll be in the playoffs yet, but I think they'll be about average.
So you think in 2 years the Browns could be... 2 or 3 years the Browns could be 8-8?
Yeah.
They've been rebuilding so long, it's hard for me to put anything behind them.
They have draft picks. They have salary cap. They get a few key people. Hugh Jackson's a good coach. I think that he can turn that team around.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. And we're going to have to, I guess, the Browns fan will have to deal with 1 or 2 more years of rebuilding.
I don't think they care.
Yeah, they've been dealing with it basically since it's been a franchise. I think it was 20 years before Cleveland won a championship last year. That was 20 years any Cleveland team won it. So I think Cleveland's been dealing with teams just not playing up to par for years.
Yeah, I think the Jets, it's gonna be a couple of years before they even try to get the right guys in there, because they're just a mess.
And the Redskins, even though they did fire their owner.
Old GM.
They didn't fire the owner. Oh, they fired their old GM. So that could help them rebuild, but they're going to need some more. And the way they chased Cousins away was not pretty.
They are a disaster right now. They fired their GM. First reports of him being drunk in the locker room came out.
Mm-hmm.
But the players said it never happened. I think the owner is a disaster, and I think he's the cause of all their problems.
Yeah, there's really a lot of things going on right now, and like I said, we're gonna have an episode with the draft. We may have a special guest, so we're gonna basically wrap this episode up. So this is the end of Sports Your Shorts for this week and next week. We will continue recording the week after, we will have a Facebook page. So we will have those. We will shout those out next one and have you guys check them out so you guys can get caught up. This is Andrew signing off.
And Jimmy.
And this is Sports Your Shorts. We hope you tune in next time to listen to our show. And have a good day, folks. Thank you for listening.